Welcome to OState. Danny Casey Porter here, joined by Scott McKinley. Wow, what a weekend it was. A clean sweep. The girls went on the road to Orlando, Florida, got out to a big lead, played just great basketball. The boys, again, they didn't play a great team. Colorado is winless in conference, 9-8 on the year, but they did what they were supposed to. And then after kind of a little bit of a slow start today, the Cowboy Wrestlers won, I think, like the last 8 matches of today's matchup against a really scrappy West Virginia club that came in ready to wrestle today. So, wow, what a weekend, Scott. It was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, you know, if nothing else, I had a lot of stuff to tune on the TV for. So yeah. That's for sure. I was not bored this weekend. We'll put it that way. But no, I watched our wrestlers today, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. We started slow. You know, Troy Spratley's he's just in a funk. I don't know what else it is. He's a great wrestler. He's just in a weird spot. He ended up getting pinned. You know, but I mean, I felt like that one, you got to give West Virginia some credit. They came in, they found a way to get some takedowns. Again, I mean, you know, a win is a win, but I think Coach Taylor would say we probably didn't have our best effort today. But you know what? And throughout a span of all the duels that you're going to have in a season, you know, when you don't come out with maybe your what you think is your best effort, you still get a pretty good win. You know, this is still a really good wrestling style. It just wasn't our best day, but you know, the win's a win. Move on, we get better. I think everything in wrestling, in my opinion, is I'm all optimistic on wrestling right now. Everything's going. I'm really excited with what's going on there in Gallagher and all that. Basketball is kind of a week of mixed results. You know, we were on here last week. We both did not. I mean, we never say never. I mean, we've seen enough crazy stuff happen in sports, but we did not think that the Cowgirls would go on the road and lose to Houston. I watched that entire game.
That was frustrating, wasn't it, man?
Yeah, and as is the case with a lot of things, there were a number of factors that went into that. Is one, our defense was not good in the first half. There's just no way around it. Our defense was atrocious, and then combine that with we weren't shooting the ball very well. Cowgirls made a valiant run late. They cut it within 3 with, I don't know, I want to say about, you know, less than 10 seconds left, and last shot didn't fall, which, okay, I mean, you know, valiant effort on the comeback, but we should not be losing to a team like Houston at all. Those are the kind of losses that you scratch your head on. But again, can't change it. Once it's done, it's done. But then the Cowgirls came out and absolutely led wire to wire yesterday against UCF. So. You know, for the Cowgirls, you know, it was not good losing to Houston, but they bounced back very nicely. Again, I still think this is a very good ball club. We just got to find a way to be a little bit more consistent. I think that's the only thing I'd say with the Cowgirls right now. We just need to be a little bit more consistent. But boy, I tell you, when our shooters are shooting threes, look out. This team could beat anybody. But defense needs to be there for you night in and night out. And we really struggled on the defensive end against Houston. And credit to Houston, several of the shots that they hit, that just, hey, good shots. You know, they put it up there. We were in their face, and they knocked it down. So kind of a mixed bag on that. Cowboys, I'm not going to lie, I was very disappointed in the trip that we made to Utah. And
both games.
Yeah, both games, and not just because, okay, yeah, it was a loss, and of course, yeah, none of us like losing at all, but in those 2 games, we were just absolutely non-competitive, and it's the same thing that we kind of said with football this last season, you know. But again, once it's done, it's done. We did get a nice win yesterday against Colorado, and you know, you got to get wins when you can get them. But I'm still waiting to see the Cowboys. Let's have a close loss. You know what I mean? Let's be there and, okay, make the other team earn it in the last 5 minutes, kind of a deal. The problem I see with our basketball team is we're taking ourselves out of the game within the first 10 minutes. You know, we're giving up these, you know, 19-1, 20-1 runs, and then we actually play pretty even with them for the rest of the game, but you can't get yourself down that bad and have any hope of being there in the end. So we got to get better at that. But again, nice win against Colorado yesterday. We played well. You know, one thing that I've always said about basketball is you can shoot threes all you want, but eventually you got to have good post play. And what I've noticed is when Usman has a good game, we have a good game. I mean, that's, as much as I love Bryce Thompson, I love Brandley, I love Avery, all those guys, that can knock it down from the outside. But, when you run things to your post and your post is having a good game, it just changes the entire dynamic on offense. And that's what I know is when Usman is having a good game, we're going to have a good game.
Yeah, I totally agree. So a lot to unpack there. Yeah. Great job opening the show there. Those are some awesome thoughts. So let's back up to the wrestling and let's talk about the good stuff first. Boy, Wyatt Hendrickson to finish the night off. Of course, you mentioned Troy Spratley kind of got the night off. A little bit shaky there, just a little bit of funk. Dude, scrappy, he'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Not worried about Spratley whatsoever. Sometimes in wrestling, you wrestle great opponents, you get caught, and it's over before you know it, right? Well, we see that quite a bit in that sport, especially against the top-tier wrestlers. So not worried about him. But, man, when you talk about Cale Hughes and Dustin Plott, Luke Serber, and then the job that Cameron Amin had another good night, and then Cutter Sheets had to come in and wrestle for Carter Young. He did not win his match. But I'll tell you what, in duels like this, when you can take a guy like that and only give up the 3 team points and not like a major decision or a tech fall, then that goes a long ways. And then because you're going to finish the night with the number 3 ranked heavyweight, and that is Wyatt Hendrickson, who, when you think of heavyweight, you think like kind of sumo wrestling, like upper body throws, headlocks, and those kinds of deals. And then as soon as you go to your back, it's over. But, man, with Wyatt Hendrickson, it's like you're watching one of the lighter wrestlers because he's hitting single legs, he's hitting lower body shots. He wrestles not like a heavyweight. But then whenever he gets on top of you, he's able to turn you, got the pin. So, wow, Wyatt Hendrickson, boy, how impressive is he right now?
Yeah, it's funny when I saw his and again, I don't want to knock anybody, but when I saw his opponent take the mat, I looked at my wife and I said, Wyatt's about to pin this guy. You could just see it. I mean, you just knew Wyatt he was going to find a way, and sure enough, yes, he got him. I love it. I've been watching wrestling for a long time, and I love it when you can look forward to the heavyweight match because you got a dude. And OSU has got one with Hendrickson. That guy he's just incredible strength, great technique, but like you said, he's very quick. I think that's something that a lot of people that are not as familiar with wrestling don't realize is that size isn't – strength is obviously a factor, but size isn't as important as quickness is. And Hendrickson is incredibly quick. But I tell you what, if he gets you his upper body strength, he gets you in a headlock, like you said, or something like that, good night. The guy is just phenomenal. Again, like I said, I feel like as a whole, this team is continuing to get better. And the other thing I think that is also kind of a unique dynamic with wrestling that we don't see with other sports is if we're up on a team, 41-7 in football, we get backups in. We get those guys in, we get them some reps, that kind of deal. Well, wrestling's kind of a little bit different deal that it's kind of, sometimes it can be kind of hard to get those guys up and comers some reps in there. But I think that's something that's been good this year is we've been able to get some guys some reps in there. And like you said, it certainly didn't cost us it cost us 3 points on the team score. We were going to win anyway. Let's give our starter a break. Let's get the young guys some work in there. So, overall, the way I look at it is there were still good things that were happening, even though we didn't wrestle our best today. And that's okay. Like I said, a win is a win is a win,
Yeah. And this is a message I got on X, and this is from DT Fan Club. West Virginia definitely came to wrestle. You mentioned that a minute ago, Scott. They had good game plans. They wrestled tough. You could tell that they were prepared. And they have a very good coach in Flynn. They just don't quite have the exact horses that Oklahoma State has right now. And the match to me, of course, Wyatt Hendrickson, Oklahoma State under David Taylor, to me, they're very aggressive. They're just ankle picks, double legs, single legs. And what I really like about the way OSU wrestles is that they'll combination wrestle, meaning they'll shoot a single leg, they'll get in a little bit, and then they'll just keep working the move maybe from a single to a double or from a single to an ankle pick maybe to a double or whatever it may be. I'm not real astute on all the different terminologies for the moves, but they're very aggressive. They stay with their moves, and then also just the grit. Luke Serber, his match. Serber was down 3-1. It was tied. He was on top, and it came down to, if you're not real familiar with wrestling, if you escape, usually on the bottom you're in a position of advantage because it's easier to escape than it is to ride. That's why they give riding points at the college level. And so with like a minute to go, Serber was on top. The match was tied, and all his opponent had to do was escape to win the match. But if Serber rode the match out, he got the 1 point for riding time. So that was really dramatic. And to be honest with you, you kind of thought the West Virginia wrestler had the advantage being on bottom. Then it looked like he was going to get out there with like 20 seconds to go. And I'll be darned if Serber doesn't hang on for the entire match and ride out, get the riding time, 1 point to win the match by one. West Virginia, they challenged the match for locked hands. There were no locked hands. What a match. I thought Luke Serber's match defined what Oklahoma State has become under David Taylor.
Yeah, that was a really good fun match to watch. The thought that I had during that is, obviously we want to see our guys pin everybody. That's the goal. But I actually think that sometimes being in those situations is actually going to do more good for you, because once you get to the NCAA tournament, you're not going to pin everybody. You're going to be in those situations where it's a really tight match, and hey, we need you to ride this guy for 45 seconds, 50 seconds, whatever the situation is. And I think that was good experience that, okay, you had to hang on to the guy. And like I said, hats off to West Virginia. They did not make it easy on us today. They were very, very feisty, very competitive wrestlers. But yeah, no, Serber did a great job. And again, there was a lot of good wrestling by both sides today. But again, the Cowboys are very, very strong. I'm really excited to see what happens in that Iowa duel, because I really think the Cowboys have got a shot. Now, again, one or two matches go a certain way, it can change the entire dynamic of a duel setting. But I really do think that the Cowboys are going to be competitive.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Dustin Plott, I don't know if you watched that match or not, or for those of you out there watching right now, if you watched that match, man, Dustin Plott, and he was wrestling a ranked wrestler and just made him look like he was. Yeah. It wasn't even on the mat. It was takedown, cut, takedown, cut, takedown, cut. Eventually got the tech fall. But how impressive was Dustin Plott?
Yeah. The other thing that I've noticed, and I noticed Dustin do this a lot today, something I've noticed under Coach David Taylor, I feel like our guys use a lot of upper body moves in order to get takedowns more than we were used to. Back in the day, it used to be, we had to get a single leg, or we had to get a double, or, something like that. These guys are good enough that if they feel just a little bit of an imbalance, that they can work with the shoulder. Literally, we can get a takedown, just literally manhandle the guy if he makes a mistake. Plott had a good day. Overall, I'm telling you, if you have not been out to a wrestling match, that was the other thing I was going to say, is we had a phenomenal crowd today. I believe they had announced, I think it was over 8,000 today.
Biggest one of the year.
Yeah. It was a great crowd. They've added a lot of things to make it really entertaining. If you've never been to a wrestling match and you're wanting to go out to one, it's a great environment. And for me, coming a little bit from old school, there is nothing like Gallagher Iba when it's rowdy. So yeah, kudos to the crowd today. Again, we got a lot of tough matches coming up. I know we got one with Northern Iowa, who's wrestling really well right now, coming up here in a couple weeks. Then I know we got Iowa towards the end of the season. But,
Iowa State this weekend.
Yeah, Iowa State coming up. So no, there's a lot of tough matches ahead. But like I said, I think the Cowboys are going to be in the thick of it. I know Penn State's the overwhelming favorite, but I think the Cowboys can be a little. We're going to be a challenge for anybody that tries to take us on.
Got to get Carter Young healthy.
Yeah,
he tweaked his knee just a little bit. I don't think it's any big deal, but held him out today. And again, did not get to wrestle today. Cutter Sheets wrestled in his stead. So Dean Hamady Jr. was very, very, very impressive. Caleb Fish was impressive. Tajan Jamison was impressive. And then obviously Cale Hughes, who he's kind of had to be the stopper, if you will, because the last couple of matches, Troy Spratler, a couple of duels, Spratley has lost the first match, and really it's kind of been like, well, Cale, we need you to go out there, and you almost have to win right now to get things going. Of course, the Cowboys will string. They have at least to this point strung like 8, 9, sometimes 10 wins in a row. So you do have that in your back pocket. But the job Cale Hughes has kind of done as being a closer has been very important. So overall thoughts as we finish our wrestling talk here.
Overall thoughts on wrestling. Again, a win is a win. Had some really impressive matches, like we just said. Had some that, didn't exactly go our way. I think today, sometimes I'm just going to tip my cap to West Virginia because they really wrestled hard today. Again, win's a win. There's things we can learn from, move on. Cowboys are still in really good shape moving forward. So, again, keep coming out, keep supporting wrestling. We got a good squad this year. We really do.
You mentioned the Tuesday night at Houston. Of course, let's have high expectations here, okay? Not trying to be negative, not trying to be pessimistic. But damn it, OSU doesn't need to go to Houston and lose that game. I know they went to UCF and won today, but of course I'm a fan. I'm not a coach. I'm not a player, so I don't have to move on, right? I can sit around and think like this. But this team, when you're looking at Annegret Aussie and Micah Gray and Staley Hurd and both of the Egareba and Tina Magassa down in the paint, and then you got the experience of like Alexia Smith coming off the bench, Micah Heward who can drain threes. So, I mean, you have like 10 girls that really could probably score double digits in any game, right? Yeah. And so this is a team that has a lot of potential to go a long ways, right? And to go that long ways, you want a better seed in the NCAA tournament. I think they are going to make the NCAA tournament. You got to quit losing these games at Houston. And of course, whenever you rely on shooting, the shooting was great today. You don't have to rely on shooting, though. I mean, we saw today Staley Hurd took the ball to the rack. We saw today Annegret Aussie took the ball to the rack. We saw today Tina Magassa ran the floor, several different layups. Egareba had a layup as well. Micah Gray was very good with dribble penetration. So although the shooting was great today, it's not going to be great every time you take the court, as we saw on Tuesday. And to me, this team is capable offensively of pivoting on nights where the shooting's not well. And then you mentioned it earlier, the defense has to be there every night. This can't just be a team that relies solely on offense to win. That will win you games. It's fun to watch, but it will not win you championships.
Yeah. And I think that's really what let us down on Tuesday. That's the sad thing to me is we've got 2 losses in conference between Houston and Kansas. And frankly, just to being frank, we're better than both of those.
Yes, we are.
We should.
So let's have high expectations and expect them to be better, right?
Exactly. If we lose to TCU in a couple weeks, okay. I get it. TCU's a really good ball club. There's absolutely no shame in that happening. But we've got to quit losing to teams that we flat should not be losing to. And again, I don't know what that is. I go back to it's a consistency thing. The other thing I noticed is that in that Tuesday night game, we had several point blank layups that we just flat didn't finish. Sometimes that's just a concentration thing. Sometimes you're just a simple little lack of concentration. Focus, knock it down. When they give you a layup, guys, you got points. Yeah. Make sure you cash in on it, that kind of thing. It's kind of like in baseball, if a guy hangs a curveball, he just gave you a gift, you better send it where it needs to go. Mm-hmm. Don't miss it.
So if you do, you're out.
Yeah. But again, what's done is done. We bounce back nicely. I think this team could be on any night. This team could be as good as any team in the Big 12.
I agree.
But we've got to get consistently as good as any team in the Big 12, I've got to quit dropping these games to these lower level teams because, again, I think this team is more than capable of making it to the NCAA tournament. I think they're more than capable of making a run in the NCAA tournament, but we got to get some of these things ironed out.
Yeah. You talk about being as good as anybody in the Big 12. How about going on the road scoring 25 points in the first quarter? They scored 19 points in the first 5 minutes and 20 seconds of the game. 4 different girls scored in double digits today. You had 23 for Staley Hurd. You had Annegret Aussie had 15, Tina Magassa had 12, and Micah Gray had 11 as well. We shot 30 3-pointers. I know that we made 10 of them, so we made 33% of our 3-point shots. But is 33 pointers in total, is that a recipe for winning in a 40-minute game?
I think obviously it can be. And again, it's one of those things where if you've got a team that is good at shooting 3-pointers like we are, okay, I get that our 3-point numbers are going to be up there. But at the same time, I also think it's one of those things where you still got to have a threat down low.
Yes.
Because again, I don't see very many teams winning that they don't have at least some simple layups. You know what I mean? I don't see a team where they only shoot 3-pointers and they win the game, usually. I mean, you think about that, because if you shot 33 pointers and you hit 10 of them, all right, you got 30 points. That's not going to win you a ball game, right? You're going to have to work it through the post. You're going to have to get some easy layups. Again, if the 3-point shot is there, take it. But the only thing that I think when I look at is if the shot is contested, or if something, we've got to find a way to work it through the post, because then if you can work it through the post, the shots that you are taking from three are going to be better looks. You're not going to have as many hands in your face. So I still think, and again, we've got good post play down there. Let's use them, but they've got to know when you got an open look and an easy layup, hit it. I mean, to me, it's that simple.
And you mentioned that, and this was the overall well-rounded offensive game that Oklahoma State is capable of playing. So you shoot 33 pointers. So you're okay with that because Oklahoma State also scored 32 points in the paint. They actually outscored UCF in the paint. They scored 32 in the paint, and then they also scored 20 points off of turnovers. So it wasn't just a three-point barrage. They scored down low, whether it be dribble penetration to the bucket. We saw Anna Gredossi do that. We saw Alexia Smith do that. We saw Micah Gray, Staley Hurd. We saw them all drive to the bucket, get on 2 feet, and finish a play. We also saw Tenon Magassa running the court in transition, scoring there, also posting up. We saw Egareba post up once and score. So it wasn't just the three-pointers. This is today or yesterday was the model of the offense that it has to be for the Cowgirls to reach their potential. Yes, 33-pointers is okay because you do shoot the ball well. I mean, Anna Gredossi, when she's set, forget it. The ball's going in, right? And Macy Heward can hit shots, and we know that Micah Gray, she's a pure shooter too, and so Staley Hurd can hit them too. So no problem with the 33-pointers as long as, like you said, Scott, you are scoring down low, 32 points in the paint, and then you're also playing defense. And then when you can score off your defense 20 points like they did, that's even better. 14 fast break points. We know this team wants to play fast. 12 steals. That was great. 19 assists. So that's another big deal. You mentioned if the shot's contested, pass the ball. So that 19 assists, I think, showed you that they would do that. And then offensive rebounding. The Cowgirls scored 17 second chance points, and they shot above 60% in the first quarter to get off to a good start. So when you talk about second chance points, assisting and passing the ball, fast break points, steals, points off of turnovers, 32 points in the paint, and you made 33% of your three-point shots. Boy, that now that is, if you're going to drop the formula of how the Cowgirls could make the Final Four, that would be it, right?
Yeah, and and we know there are tougher games that are on the horizon, but again, the formula still has to be the same. You don't just start, which I've seen, in past seasons where, okay, we start playing a tougher team. Yeah, it's tougher to work it through the paint. I mean, it's going to be tougher. You're going to be facing better players down there, but at the same time, you can't just totally abandon it because it's tougher. You still got to find a way to get some buckets. I don't know. To me, one of the things I think when I look at is with Magassa, she is so tall. Get her in the middle, and then tell her, okay, look, we're not just even call it in the play. You're not going to shoot right here. You're looking to pass, because I guarantee you somebody's going to collapse to try to guard you to make sure you don't take it to the bucket. Somebody's got to be open. But no, like I said, they're fun to watch. When the Cowgirls are playing well, they are really a fun team to watch. What do we have? I can't even. I haven't looked at the schedule moving forward. When's our next one?
Let me go ahead and talk about it. Let's do this, Scott. Staley Hurd. Let me do this. Staley Hurd, 23 points, another double-double. She had 10 rebounds as well. So I don't know. For some reason, the game logs were not loading today. So I think that's like maybe the 6th double-double of the year for Staley Hurd, but it's somewhere around there. Don't exactly quote me on that because, again, the game logs were not loading today. She also had 4 steals, 3 assists, and check this out, no turnovers. So you got all the good with none of the bad whatsoever with this young lady, Staley Hurd, who is a superstar. She shot above 50%. So what a game with her. So for her, again, talk about Staley Hurd while I pull up the schedule here.
So the thing what I would say, one with Staley Hurd is she is special. She's flat out. She is a special talent. One of the things I look at is the other word I'd use with her is consistency. She is she is consistently producing. It's not just, okay, well, yeah, she was, she got hot from three this game, or yeah, she, whatever, this other game. She is consistently putting in good numbers. But again, she's very smart with the basketball. She passes when she needs to. She takes the shot when she needs to. I've always felt like from a guard standpoint, that is one of the most underrated skills that a guard has, is you got to know when to shoot and when to pass. And sometimes that's not easy to know, but Staley seems to know. She seems to make the right decision almost every single time she's got the ball. So, no, I think Staley Hurd's a great ball player. Again, great shooter, great passer. She's got a very high basketball IQ. The other thing I also notice is when she can create her own shot, and when she dribble penetrates, she has got incredible body control to keep her, keep the defender off of her, to allow her, it basically gives her enough of a window to get the shot off, and she can hit it. So can't say enough about Staley. She's absolutely phenomenal player.
So I'm going to push this over. Here's the schedule. You can see it there too, Scott.
Okay.
Guess who's coming up next for the Cowgirls?
The big one. Yeah.
TCU. Hey, fun week in Stillwater. Tuesday night, Arizona comes in on the men's side. Wednesday night, TCU comes in on the women's side. Man, if you're a basketball fan, this is it, right? I mean, this is an awesome week. So you have TCU at home Wednesday, a huge game, and then you're at Lubbock. We know that Texas Tech, regardless of how good they are, they're always tough to beat in Lubbock. Then Arizona State. Then you go to West Virginia. So this is a stretch to where if you don't play good, you could lose 2 or 3 of these games. Right.
I tell you, TCU is definitely going to be the toughest test we've had so far. TCU is a really good ball club. So, we're going to need all the crowd support we can. And again, we're going to need everybody to bring their A game on Wednesday, because this is, like I said, I can't say enough. TCU, I think they're ranked in the top 10. Very, very good ball club coming to town Wednesday night in Gallagher.
Yeah. So the men, you mentioned it at the top. Very disappointing in the way that they played both Utah and BYU. They were both terrible matchups. That's fine, but you got to figure out a way to be more competitive than they were. I'll say this. Of course, Colorado does not have a winning conference yet, and Colorado is 9-8 now. They're not a good team. They struggle to score the ball, but they were long, and that length is what has really been the bugaboo for this Cowboy team. And Coach Lutz mentioned that he wanted his guys to combat that length, to play off of 2 feet. Now, what does he mean by that? So when you get into the paint, instead of just jumping and trying to finish a shot and getting your shot blocked or whatever, come to a jump stop. That way you can pump fake, you can get your taller defender in the air, or if you come to that jump stop, if you see like Bryce Thompson he drove to the bucket a couple times, he came to a jump stop, he saw the help defense coming over, realizing that, then he could dump the ball over to where the help, the guy that the help left, right? And so I think the Cowboys found a little bit of a formula of when they drive the ball to the bucket, land on 2 feet to where you can either pump fake and go up for a shot and get fouled like the Cowboys did. They shot 42 free throws. That's a season high in free throws. That's because of that 2 feet concept that Lutz really kind of hammered home this week. Or you can kick it out for open shots that we saw guys like Arturo Dean, Marcellus Avery take advantage of. So I thought what Oklahoma State did was they drove to the ball to the bucket under control. They got both their feet underneath them and made great decisions and forced Colorado to foul them.
Yeah, I think the whole key word there is options, right?
Yes.
We're trying to create options for the offense. And that's and like you said, I think they did a much better job with that against Colorado. They would dribble, drive, penetrate, but they hadn't made up their mind quite yet because they didn't have to yet. They've still got options. That's when we talk about getting more and more assists. That's really what an assist came off of. You had an option and you chose the right one. Really when you break it down, that's really the way it works. So no, I think they did a much better job on that. Again, I think that there are pieces of this team that I really like. We just got to find a way to get more consistent against certain ball clubs. Again, but Colorado was a winnable game and we won it. Now what I'd like to see us do is let's go get one that we might be an underdog. Let's go steal one from somebody, that kind of thing. But no, I mean, and again, I think this year, and I said this before the season started, I'm still going to say it again. I'm not going to judge Lutz completely by the record this year, just because of the situation that he walked into. But again, my expectation this year is we are going to start getting more competitive. I'd like to see a little bit more. Like I said, we got to quit with the huge runs that we're giving up in the first half. I think if we eliminate that, I think that's going to get us a long way to where we need to be. Because, and the thing is Lutz can't call a timeout every 30 seconds. Guys, you're going to have to stop a run with the bucket eventually. You know what? If all else fails, drive to the bucket. Let them, try to get them. Maybe they'll get a foul call on you. We can go to the line and we can get 2 points and shut down the momentum. But like I said, it was much better to watch yesterday. I thought we had a pretty decent crowd in Gallagher. Yeah. It wasn't a sellout, but I thought it was a decent crowd. Made a little noise. So good win.
Yeah. So here's kind of what I'm talking about. Let me back up with this was the concept that really got the Cowboys in control of the game. Okay, by I believe this is right here. Okay, so here's Bryce Thompson. See how he's driving the ball to bucket. Now what I want you to notice is watch how he gets on both feet right there. See that right there? Okay, so what OSU had been doing to this point is they had just been trying to continue all the way to the bucket and jumping in and trying to finish the shot and or in midair trying to pass, right? But because Bryce Thompson got both feet on the ground right there, okay, so now he's able to watch the ball fake. See the ball fake? Okay, now look at his defender, okay? So here's number 1. This is number 31 that's going to come over for help right here. So as 31 comes over to help, okay, right there, he sees the help. Bryce sees the help. He knows somebody has to be open. He's able to pump fake and then throw it back out to Arturo Dean, who, again, look how many feet he has on the ground. He lands with both feet on the ground. He waits to see how he waits till he gets both feet underneath him, goes up in perfect form for the three-pointer, and I'll be darned whenever you're mechanically sound how things work out. Here's another one right here. Here's Patrick Sumnick, who had a great day, by the way. See right here? He gets the ball. Watch this. See how he gets the ball right here? Watch the first move he makes. 2 feet. See that? He gets into triple threat position. Then he gets to the goal right here. 2 feet again. And he's able to go up. He doesn't finish the shot there. But it was a good play by him because it got him a high percentage shot against all this length for Colorado. So that's a good example of what Coach Lutz was talking about in both his pre and post game show. See how right there, Jamyron Keller. See how we're going to back that up. Watch Jamyron Keller to start this next play. Right there, 2 feet. Right there, back out to Bryce Thompson, 2 feet. Back out to Arturo Dean, 2 feet. Buckets right there. That's how an Oklahoma State team that is undermanned can beat a team with more length than them. 2 feet right there, get in triple threat position and survey the defense. And like you said, make the right decision.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Like I said, it creates options. And the other thing is I think it also creates in the player's mind that the goal is not necessarily that I just made up my mind I'm going to shoot or what I'm going to do. But if I've got options and you know what those options are, you can choose the best one.
Yeah, 100%. Another guy that was really, really good yesterday was Abu Usman. He was a little bit more quiet. It seemed like he had 14 points and he led the way in scoring, but he was more quiet, it seemed like, because some other guys on his team, like Robert Jennings Jr., and guys like that really had good games. So I thought it was a good game overall for Oklahoma State. I thought it was a good crowd. Again, Colorado is not a great team. Not going to sugarcoat any of that. Not going to make too much out of it, more out of it than it is. But that's Colorado's problem. And if this year, Oklahoma State just needs, like you said, find games to win. And they did that. Yeah.
So I'd say mission accomplished on that. And again, I think Lutz is trying to make some changes. And again, I think that this team has pieces of what could be a really good ball club. We just don't quite have every single piece that we need just yet. But again, that doesn't mean that we can't win some ball games here. And I think that's the other thing is this team they're not out of anything yet. I mean, all right, we're probably not going to win the conference. I don't think that's a big surprise for anybody. But this team could still make a run in the second half. And I think if they continue to have better mechanics, they continue to play unselfish basketball, play good defense, do the things that Lutz is asking them to do, I think we could have a few more wins coming our way as well. But we got to continue to work on those mechanics, continue to have good defense, all those things that go into, winning is a formula. You got to have it's like a soup. You got to have like 9 or 10 things that you got to do well if you want to win the ball game.
Mm-hmm. I think the crowd Saturday showed that if Oklahoma State just shows any kind of life whatsoever, there is still a crowd there that can come to Gallagher. Of course, it wasn't anywhere as close to full, and it wasn't anywhere close to the way that we want it to get. But I thought for the way that this season has gone, for the last 2 games, it was very cold. I can tell you, my wife and I went, and we parked in the parking lot that is right next to the Cowgirls softball stadium, right just to the north side of their indoor facility. And the walk into Gallagher wasn't too bad. But the walking back into that north wind, my God, that was cold. So considering how cold it was, considering Oklahoma State played just pitiful in Utah, likely not going anywhere this year, there's not a whole lot of momentum. Overall, I told my wife, I don't know how many times, it showed me that there still is the potential to have great crowds to basketball. You just got to start winning.
Yeah. Well, and I think even more than that, like I said, I think the word, I go back to the word competitive. We got to get back to being competitive.
Yeah. And fun.
Fun, competitive. It's entertaining. That's really what it comes down to. But like I said, I think that could, let's use the momentum of that and let's go get another one. Because I think that's all it is, just taking one game at a time. Let's go get as many wins as we can and see what happens.
Why does it seem like to me, I've said this and I know people get frustrated with him because Bryce Thompson has not been the 5-star that we thought we were getting from Kansas that came out of Booker T. He was such a great player. But why is it that it just, to me, am I wrong here? It seems like when Bryce Thompson is the leading scorer or he's at the top of the scoring list for the Cowboys and he's playing really good offense, why does it seem like Oklahoma State's a way better team?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is. I mean, it's if nothing else. I mean, I don't think it's any big secret. We want a lot of our offense to go through Bryce Thompson. Yep. I mean, he's veteran. He's a good shooter. And like you said, he may not be the 5-star that he was, but he's still a good, solid ball player. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's just a large part of our offense is predicated upon him having a good night, and just we need him to have a good night. But again, the other thing, like I said earlier, when Usman is having a good night, we're having a good night too. Because obviously, when you get good post play like that, and if we can go through Usman, well, now it's likely Thompson's probably going to be open on a few more things, or we can get Arturo Dean open, or Avery can get open. So no, I mean, like I said, I think that there's pieces of this team that this could be a decent ball club. We just got to get it all together and get some consistency.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Connor Dow, getting him back, I think that's been big. He had 2 big threes yesterday. So, okay, man, let's move on to the football. Really the only thing to talk about at this point is the transfer portal. Anything this week that kind of struck you or new from last time we talked that you can think of?
Didn't see anything new. I've had a little bit of time to go through the list again. I do think there's some pretty good ball players in this list. There's a lot of we'll see how they gel in the spring. We don't know what quarterback we're going to have. Are we going to have more of a running type quarterback? Or are we going to have more of a drop back passer? We don't really know. But again, I think just on paper, as far as looking at the positions that we needed to fill, I think the coaching staff has done a good job. Now, time will tell as to what the quality of the players that we're bringing in are. But I think overall, as far as filling needs, I think they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is from Pokes Report here, too. This is the transfer portal. Oklahoma State added a cornerback, Jalen Davies from UCLA. So one thing I do like about Trip White and then Sam Jackson and guys like that, Shamar Rigby has a little bit more experience, but They're guys that have, like, they're very toolsy. Those are typically the type of guys that Coach Gundy does really well. Now, so don't look at the stats, but if you look at the measurables and the tools, I think Oklahoma State went and got a bunch of guys that match the type of tools that they want in this organization to run the styles of offense and defense that they want to run.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say about stats, because you and I are both very big baseball, softball guys.
Yes.
Stats are everything. In football, I'll be honest, I look at stats less than I and probably than any other sport. And my reasoning on that is because if you look at, okay, how many rushing yards does a running back have? Okay, well, if he's running behind a terrible offensive line, okay, his stats aren't going to look very good. It is in football. One thing is dependent upon the other, right? So, like I said, look at the measurables, look at the tools, look at the fit. How does this guy going to fit in whatever system that we're going to be running? And I think that's really what you have to go off of. Because if you to go off of stats, you'd think that Ollie Gordon was not a good running back if you just looked at last year. Even though we all know Ollie's a very, very good running back. Look at the year before, So I think just looking at statistics, the statistics will fool you in football. But like I said, I think the coaches have done a nice job so far. I am really curious to see what the team looks like in spring ball, because I think we've got a lot of quote unquote finding out to do in the spring. Like I said, this is going to be a totally different coaching staff next year. It's going to be a totally new look Cowboys. I have absolutely no idea, wouldn't even guess as to what type of record we would have or anything like that. But I would like to think that we would be able to improve on what we saw last year. Wouldn't take much, to be honest.
Yeah, on the baseball front, I am efforting. I actually have messaged with Hub Roberts, the director of baseball operations for OSU baseball, and I think I'm going to have Josh Holiday on the show this week. So that's going to be a lot of fun, very exciting. So I'm waiting to hear back from that to get everything nailed down. Hopefully that's in store. Super excited about this OSU team. I really think this is going to be a really, really dynamite Oklahoma State baseball team. Now we've talked about them at length, but there's some variables to it. The Gabe Davis, is he going to be the ace we need him to be? Can Ryan Gear throw strikes? Is Drew Blake going to stay healthy? Those kinds of situations. And then, is one of your catchers going to hit? Is Brock Thompson going to be able to man shortstop? Where's Avery Ortiz going to play? Is Aiden Miola going to be able to stay away from injury, something he has not been able to do? Can Colin Brigham not have like month-long slumps like he had last year, to where he just has lots? Now, he does damage when he's on, right? Yeah. But then whenever he's in a slump, he has empty at-bats. Where's Colin Ritchie going to play? I mean, he can play anywhere from third base to center field, right? Donovan LaSalle, for a young man from Louisiana who hit the game winner against a home run against OU. Didn't really get a lot of at-bats down the stretch last year, had a good summer. Where does he pencil in at? Where's Avery Ortiz going to pencil in at? You got the young kid, I believe his name is, I can't remember his last name right now, but out of Enid. That's a really nice outfielder. So there's a lot of pieces here, a lot of variability to it, which to me, that's what makes it exciting, because the one thing we talk about this all the time is that Josh Holiday does a great job of creating competitions. So that the most mentally tough players are the ones that are going to come out on top in Josh Holiday's system. Yeah.
Hey, that player at Enid, was that a Garrett Schull?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a little funny story about him.
I kept wanting to say Kroll. That's why I stayed off it, because I knew it wasn't Kroll yet.
Let me tell you a funny story about Garrett. So I was calling a game up in Enid a couple of years ago, and he came up and he's batting left-handed that time, and he came up, and I mean, first pitch of the game, I'm over behind first. He laced one right at me, and I swear I pulled a muscle in my soul trying to get away from that thing. I mean, it was that might have been one of the hardest hit balls I've ever seen. I think it was foul. I threw my hands up probably just because that was self-protection. But no, I'll tell you, I've seen Garrett for several years. OSU, look for him, and again, I mean, he's a young ball player. There's always development.
Sure.
A year working with Josh Holliday is going to make him better. But I'll tell you, that kid is a ball player, and I think he's going to have a great career. So, no, I'd say overall with what Coach Holliday is going to have to work with, he's got a good problem on his hand because we've got a lot of really good ball players, good solid guys that I think we can put in the lineup here. And again, like I said, throughout the course of the season, lineup's going to fluctuate. Even positions can fluctuate from time to time. But I tell you what, I've got confidence in Josh Holliday that he's gonna put a pretty competitive ball club on the field. I think looking at the rest of the Big 12. I kind of look for TCU to bounce back from last year. They were kind of down a little bit last year. Texas Tech is going to be competitive. Both the Arizona schools, both Arizona State and Arizona, are they're baseball tradition-rich programs, so they're going to be competitive. But I think the Cowboys are going to be right there with everybody. I really think we're going to have a good season.
Totally agree. Scott, take over. I know we talked quite a bit about it last week, but let's move to softball. We're going to talk about this every week in case you missed last week's show. Let's start in the circle. Take us through what the Cowgirls have in the circle.
So Ruby Malin is transferred from Washington. She was the All-American, very tall, good fastball, good off speed, spots up. She's got all the tools that you're looking for in a big time pitcher in the circle. Crandall is probably going to be a good number 2 punch there. Again, she's very good change of pace. She's a little bit shorter. Relies a little bit more on off speed. She's very, very good, very, very accurate, pinpoint accurate with all of her pitches. Which again, I see that being a little bit like the 1-2 punch like we had with Kilfoyle and Rosenberry last year. I think it's going to be very, very similar to that.
Weren't they fun to watch?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun to watch. But again, and to me, the wild card of the bunch is Kyra Aycock, because you and I both have been very, very high on her. We think she's got all the tools to be a good pitcher, just needed some development. So I'm really curious to see how much development she's been able to have in the off season. So no, I really do think that the pitching is going to be a strength of the Cowgirls. Again, I don't see us taking too much of a step back, if any at all, in the circle from last year.
So let's kind of go through position by position as far as this squad goes. Let's start in the infield at first base. Who do you think the first baseman's going to be?
Oh, it's got to be Carly Godwin.
Yeah,
got to be. Carly is. I mean,
so Lexi probably plays in the outfield.
Probably. I think that's probably what you're going to look at. Hang on, let me pull up the roster real quick to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody.
Yeah, Rosie Davis at second base.
Yeah, I think Rosie Davis will be a good second baseman. Good glove. She's got a good bat. Got a little speed. I think that's something that Coach Gajewski has talked about, that this team overall is going to have tremendous team speed. That's something that he has really made a priority in recruiting. And I really do think that that's the right approach to go with this. Having more speed is never a bad thing in any sport.
Yeah.
So
Pat Hood probably is short, and Talon Edwards the third.
I think that's a probable look. I don't know.
Bloodworth coming in kind of as a utility, fourth infielder type.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how Bloodworth is going to fit in. I mean, obviously she's very good on defense. The question is the offensive side of the ball for her. But as far as I'm sure Coach G would have absolutely no issue whatsoever if we needed to, if they had to do some pinch hitting or some pinch running, whatever, and we needed to put her back out there in the infield. She's more than capable of handling it.
Yeah. So Delgadillo or Tim in center field?
Ooh.
Good problem to have, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because I tell you, Claire Tim is got a very good bat, but so does Delgadillo, and she's got a lot of speed. So yeah, I'm not sure. Man, I tell you, this is almost an embarrassment of riches at times when you look at this lineup. I mean, we've got girls that can hit from 1 through 9. Like I said before, I'm as high on this team as I think I've been on any team that we've had recently. So
Delgadillo, Claire Tim, Lexi McDonald. That probably looking at your starting 3 in the outfield if you had to start tomorrow.
Probably.
Yeah. And that leaves Michaela Wark as the DH.
Yeah, possibly a DH. I mean, some of it may just it may depend on who's pitching. I mean, it's okay. Do we feel like there's an advantage with a righty lefty? Is there one where we feel like that we got a better chance to have a little bit more power on this game versus this arm? versus we need a little bit more speed up against this arm. I really think that it's very possible we'll see a little bit more of a lineup shuffle. I don't think I really do not think we're going to see the same lineup every single game going forward. I think there's going to be changes almost every single game, just depending upon the matchup.
Do they have time to do that with the schedule they have early on, though? They have Florida State twice. They've got Louisiana Tech. They got UCLA, Kentucky, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Alabama all in their first 10 games. I mean, that's going to make it tough to try to play with your lineup, because if you do, you might end up 2-8.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said before, I think that's the thing that I think Cowgirl fans we need to just set our minds to it right now, that it is very likely we're probably going to have a couple of losses coming out of that schedule. That is an absolute murderer's row of a schedule to start the season, particularly at a time when you're trying to find out where all the pieces work. You're trying to figure out, all right, what do we have? And the thing is you don't want to completely, let's say that the Michaela Work is not going to be the starter in the outfield. Well, I don't want to go 10 games into the season and she hasn't seen a single pitch at the plate. I mean, you gotta get those other players in there early, and I really think that this schedule early in the season, if there was a purpose behind it. We want to see top level arms before we get into conference play and get us ready to hit that, not just in conference play, but once we get into the postseason as well.
Did you say the Cowgirls are the favorite now that OU has moved on, Texas has moved on? Are the Cowgirls a favorite to win the Big 12? We saw they beat Arizona last year in the regional, so they'll probably be favored over them. If not, who would it be? I mean, they had a tough weekend at Baylor last year. They got Baylor's pitcher, right? So,
yeah.
I mean,
I really think it's going to come down to Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. So a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Texas Tech, they got the Nigel Kennedy girl in the circle. Obviously, we know she's as good an arm as you're going to see in college softball. They also got a number of other good transfers as well. Texas Tech has been very, very active in the transfer portal. So that would be my bet. It's probably going to come down to both of those squads. Just to start the season, I think the Cowgirls have the edge. But again, as we know, on paper, it doesn't count for anything. You're going to have to win it on the field. But I think the Cowgirls are going to be right there. Super excited about this week, Tuesday night, Gallagher-Iba Arena. The Arizona Wildcats take a trip to Stillwater. And hey, man, if OSU can pull off a victory against Arizona and pull to 3-4, there is enough experience on this team that they can score a little bit down low with Usman. Robert Jennings Jr. had a good game. The other night, Patrick Sumnick had the best game of his career, at least at his Oklahoma State career. We know Chi-Chi Avery can light it up from outside. Bryce Thompson can be a very good offensive player whenever he's playing good offense. We have three good guards in Jamiron Keller, Arturo Dean, and Khalil Brantley. And then we have depth with guys like Devo Davis. And now you have a sharpshooter coming off the bench and Connor Dow. So it's not like this team is incapable. It just seems like they need to figure out their groove, right? That kind of thing. And if you could just tread water until you find that groove. Well, I think if you beat Arizona, you go 3-4 in conference. I think you have treaded that water. And now every game's tough in the Big 12, but every game other than, maybe a couple like on the road against Utah and BYU, we're still trying to figure ourselves out. That was tough. But every game is going to be at least somewhat winnable for this team. And if you win the third conference game Tuesday against a good opponent at home, maybe you get Oklahoma State fans excited, you get on a roll, and some of this experience starts gelling together, and you become at least a pretty good team. Yeah. There's nothing, like I said, there's nothing stopping this team from making a run. They just got to get those pieces together. And I think the other thing I think we've all been looking for is at some point we're going to have a good game like that, and we're going to figure it out. Well, okay, maybe Colorado leads to, like I said, I really think if we can somehow pull off a win on Tuesday, that could be the spark that gets this team going in the second half. Now, again, are we going to win the national title this year? No, but that's not the goal for this year. The goal for this year is let's get back to being competitive in conference play. So yeah, I'd say everybody, let's show up on Tuesday. Let's be loud. Let's get GIA back to what it was, and let's get this team as good a chance as we can to pull out a victory. The goal this year to me is to get Oklahoma State basketball fans excited enough to come back to games to make Gallagher-Iba Arena a good home court advantage. So Tuesday night, Arizona Wildcats come into town.
Wednesday night, you got TCU, maybe the best team in the Big 12 women's wise, coming into town. So, boy, what a week it sets up to have this week. Scott, for final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. Like I said, let's get out to Gallagher. Let's go support these teams this week, and let's go Pokes.